This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Mark Martin. The nation is likely to get an indication this week. Is the worst of COVID-19 behind us, or will we be hit by a second wave? Gary Lane reports.
Heat-weary Californians defied stay-at-home orders and took to the beach Sunday. Temperatures soaring into the 90s caused some counties to ease stay-at-home restrictions. Huntington Beach and Newport Beach were packed with sunbathers looking to cool off. Los Angeles County beaches remained closed. It is just one example of what is happening nationwide. 15 states are reopening their economies this week, while other states hit hard by the COVID-19 virus remain closed. With some Colorado businesses opening back up today, Colorado Governor Polis urged people in his state to act responsibly.
The stay-at-home was for nothing. It doesn't accomplish anything if it's not replaced with practices that are sustainable for the weeks and months that it's likely to remain with us.
Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin predicts the gradual reopenings will have a positive impact on the U.S. economy.
As we open up the economy in May and June, you will begin to see the economy bounce back in July, August, September. And my expectation is that you'll see an increasing rate of growth in those 3 months.
That may be too long for some sectors, like the oil industry. U.S. drillers closed 60 rigs this week, laying off hundreds of workers. The governor of Oklahoma wants President Trump to declare the pandemic an act of God to protect oil producers from losing their leases. However, there's positive news on the health front. Dr. Deborah Burke says the latest projections provide hope that the number of new coronavirus infections will start coming down.
Social distancing will be with us through the summer to really ensure that we protect one another as we move through these phases.
Meanwhile, the White House says President Trump is pulling back from his daily coronavirus briefings, possibly a reaction to White House press corps reporting of the president's remarks about disinfectants and ultraviolet light for treatment. Dr. Birx downplayed the president's comments on CNN's State of the Union Sunday.
It bothers me that this is still in the news cycle because I think we're missing the bigger pieces of what we need to be doing as an American people to continue to protect one another.
For now, officials are stressing that Americans must go slow and maintain social distancing rules. Dr. Birx also says we have to have a breakthrough in testing for antibodies to help prevent a second massive outbreak. Gary Lane, CBN News.
A federal judge has ruled in favor of a Mississippi church, allowing them to continue their drive-in services. Holly Springs police shut down First Pentecostal Church for allegedly breaking the 10-person limit due to COVID-19 restrictions. This despite a statewide order that deems churches and religious gatherings essential. An attorney for the church said on both occasions, Holly Springs law enforcement personnel ignored the fact that all church members present were practicing social distancing and complying with all applicable health requirements, and said the city's stay-at-home order conflicts with the state's and was selectively and prejudicially placed on the church. Steve Hampton, the attorney with the Thomas More Society representing the church, joins us now with more. Steve, give us a little more background about this case.
Sure, Mark. The fact is that this church, like most others, completely shut down for a matter of several weeks. They didn't meet at all. They came back on April the 5th. They met outdoor with a drive-in service, again, always being very careful to practice social distancing and comply with all of the essential health requirements. Then on Easter Sunday, April the 12th, they convened to try to meet outside. Well, the weather wouldn't permit it, so they moved it indoors, again, keeping their social distancing and being very careful with their health requirements. Nevertheless, Holly Springs Police Department came barging in and attempted to shut down the service. They ended up citing the pastor with a criminal citation. And then on April the 22nd, just a few days ago, the church was meeting on a Bible study, and once again, here comes the Holly Springs police, shut the thing down. They paid no attention to social distancing. They just wanted to basically cabin all meeting practices altogether.
What are some examples of businesses, Steve, that were breaking the restrictions but not getting in trouble?
Sure. Let me give a little predicate to that, too, if I may, Mark. The way the county or the city here has classified the churches, they've made them a non-essential business. Under the City of Holly Springs rules, that means they can't gather at all. Even 2 people can't be inside their facility. For essential businesses like a Walmart or a Dollar Tree, and there's another Cash Saver store in town, they're allowed to have people inside, but even there, according to the city's express language, they can't have more than 10 people gathering. Well, as anybody that's been to a Walmart knows, there's a whole lot more than 10 people, maybe even in a checkout line. And that's the case in Holly Springs. After the church was cited on Easter Sunday, the pastor and several congregants drove over to the Walmart, and the police, of course, accompanied them, and they showed them how even the church people can walk freely all through Walmart in gatherings of much larger than 10, and not a finger is lifted. Frankly, it begins to look like the city of Holly Springs, like perhaps other government entities across the country, are exercising a particular degree of discrimination and manifesting hostility against religion in this case.
Were other churches in the area holding similar services, and did they get shut down?
We were not aware until the actual hearing before the judge last Friday. At that point, the city represented that there is one other church that they allowed to meet outdoors. The interesting thing was we begged them for just permission to at least be allowed to meet out of doors before we filed this lawsuit. And they said, no, we don't agree with any of your positions. Do what you have to do. So we did what we had to do.
What does this win mean for churches across the country, Steve?
Well, I hope that it helps restore a little confidence in the churches. Look, the quarantine is bad. We all sympathize with municipalities and their need to take some drastic measures. But the fact is, the First Amendment is not quarantined here. And the gathering together of believers is a vital part of what makes the church. As you probably know, the Latin term ecclesia means gathering. So there's a sense in which this is really essential for churches. And what the Mississippi governor has recognized, and some other states, I think it's a minority, is churches are essential to the social well-being of the communities. And so we need to protect churches, as the state order here in Mississippi does. They ought to be treated as essential, and they need to exercise and be vigilant about their First Amendment rights.
All right, Steve Crampton with the Thomas More Society. Thank you so much, Steve, for your time today.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Appreciate it.
Overseas in New Zealand, new coronavirus cases are down in the single digits. This is the country is preparing to ease the rules on a strict lockdown. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern is being praised for her proactive efforts in fighting the virus. She said the country has so far managed to avoid the worst scenarios for an outbreak.
Of course, the ambition we all have is to confidently reach the position where we can bring back the social contact that we all miss. But to do it confidently, we need to move slowly and we need to move cautiously. We must make sure that we do not let the virus run away on us again and cause a new wave of cases and deaths. To succeed, we must hunt down the last few cases of the virus. This is like looking for a needle in a haystack, and we need your help to finish the job we have started.
Starting at midnight, businesses will begin to open, still maintaining social distancing guidelines. In the UK, Prime Minister Boris Johnson is back at work after he battled coronavirus himself. Johnson spent 2 weeks recuperating from COVID-19, which put him in the ICU for 3 nights. Over the weekend, Britain became the 5th country to record more than 20,000 deaths from the virus. Though officials say the nation may be turning a corner, Johnson will now have to find a way to follow some of Europe's hardest hit countries as they begin to ease restrictions.
I entirely share your urgency. It's the government's urgency. And yet we must also recognize the risk of a second spike.
Coming up, why the Army took religious-affiliated videos off their Facebook page and how activists are fighting back. But before we go to break, here's a look at what's trending on CBNNews.com.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back to NewsWatch. The Army pulled chaplain videos meant to encourage soldiers during the pandemic from a Facebook page after a complaint from an anti-religion group. I spoke with FaithWire.com's Dan Andros about the story, including the complaint and any efforts to see the posts restored. Dan, tell us what happened with the Army chaplain prayer videos.
Yeah, well, the chaplains were making some videos that were designed to encourage members of their units as we're dealing with this coronavirus pandemic. And they posted them and ended up posting them to the main page of their from their unit and not from the chaplain page. And so this caught the attention of the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. And this is a similar organization to the Freedom from Religion Foundation, where they sort of look for these sort of any mention of faith, and then they find where they can come in and complain. And that's exactly what they did. They filed a complaint and demanded that the videos be removed from the main page. And within hours, that's exactly what happened.
What is the argument by the Military Religious Freedom Foundation? I mean, since the chaplains produce them and watching is not mandatory.
Yeah, it feels like a stretch, but what they call it is illicit proselytizing videos. And, you know, again, their main beef that they contend is that those should be limited to the chaplain page and not the main Facebook page. And as you said, it's not mandatory that they watch them, and it seems very harmless. But, you know, when you put words, menacing words in front of them, such as illicit, it makes them sound a lot worse than they actually obviously are. Yeah,
I was thinking the same thing. Well, tell us about the one video that the group really took issue with.
Yeah, well, there's a little area on campus there. It's called a labyrinth, and so one of the chaplains was just using it to make an illustration and make a point about how sometimes our lives can feel like a labyrinth. And she encouraged people to go there and to sort of, you know, just use it to meditate and to pray and to think about their life. And she found it a help to her, and so she was encouraging others to do the same. And so they took issue with that, and they were very concerned that they would be, you know, the chaplains, which would be encouraging people to turn towards God in the midst of this coronavirus thing, which is obviously what any chaplain would do.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. The Army removed the videos, but are any religious liberty groups trying to stand up and get them back, Dan?
Yeah, thankfully, the ACLJ, which is the American Center for Law and Justice, who are frequently on the front lines of these sorts of issues, they have put out a little bit of a public relations campaign on this one, and they're encouraging people to sign a petition. They're working up some legal letters to get at least a conversation started there, and to see if they can, you know, push back and maybe at least create a little bit of the pressure to sort of get these videos back up where they belong.
And so they've started that, and they're going to see where it goes.
Okay, Dan Andrews, thanks for bringing us this important story. It certainly encourages us to pray for our nation. And you can catch the latest episode of FaithWire's Faith versus Culture with Dan Andros and Dale Partridge on the CBN News Channel tonight at 9:30 Eastern. Coming up, how the Salvation Army is helping those suffering from the pandemic. We're going to learn what they hope to accomplish.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to cbnnewschannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back. The Salvation Army has a presence in nearly every zip code in the United States and is serving in more than 130 countries. That puts it in a unique position to serve those affected by the COVID-19 outbreak. George Thomas spoke with the national commander of the Salvation Army, David Hudson, for more.
Mr. Hudson, great to have you on the show. Right off, give us an overview of the various ways your organization is responding to the folks who've been impacted by COVID-19.
Well, as you mentioned at the get-go, the Salvation Army is a global organization. In the United States, on an average year, we serve 23 million people in a variation of services. That includes food, that includes shelter, that includes daycare. Well, all of those things now have been expanded to battle COVID-19. They've just had to be changed. So, for instance, food distribution, we've seen some places where the demand has increased by 2, 3, 4 times. Sacramento area, we've seen an increased demand of maybe 400%. But we have to change how we do it. It used to be people would come into our facilities. Now everything is drive-through. Social distancing, making sure that people are safe, both the people who are coming in for the assistance and people that are providing the assistance. With the sheltering, you can imagine we've had to take our normal shelters and expand them because we not only are serving more people, but we have to provide adequate space, isolation, quarantine to provide those services. And some of our daycare centers now are providing daycare for first responders. Yeah. So that's just a glimpse of some of the things.
I'm sure incredible. You know, you mentioned food and the food pantry that you guys run across the country, around the country. We've seen the long lines of people trying to get food, sir. Just how bad is the problem?
Well, like I said, the demand has increased 2, 3, 4 times. Mm-hmm. Most of the people we serve on a given year are one paycheck away. From homelessness or from needing food assistance or whatever. Many of the people we serve on a regular basis are already employed and still need a little bit of supplement. Well, now picture over 23 million people unemployed. A lot of those people are people we were already serving. And so now we have people that we are already serving needing more, and then more people all of a sudden needing the assistance. And so the demand has been incredible, and it's going to continue for the foreseeable future.
You mentioned you guys have a special ministry providing a daycare for the children of first responders. Wow, that sounds like a critical service at this time, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. A couple of the illustrations is at Phoenix and in Honolulu, Hawaii, we have these Croc centers that are very large community centers that serve population through daycare or through fitness programs or kind of character building programs. Well, those now, as you would understand, have been closed for the most part for those traditional. But with the daycares, they've been now repurposed to offer daycares exclusively for people that are either in the healthcare profession or the first responders. And also, they've been repurposed to be drive-in food assistance for people that need food as well.
Can you describe how are folks, sir, responding to the help that you are giving? Are they responsive to the gospel message when you share it at appropriate times?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was, for instance, I was in Fairfax, just outside of Alexandria, where I live, and I was volunteering one day, and everyone that came up to receive food assistance, and it was on an appointment system, because again, we can't have people too close to each other. And as we would take out the food to their cars, we were asking every one of the people, would you like us to pray with you? And I was there maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, and not one person declined. Every one of them said, we would love to have you pray. Times like this is when it tests people's faith. You know, I've been listening to Rick Warren in his sermon series lately, you know, kind of a faith for this time. And what he talks about is if you don't have a faith that can weather storms, then maybe it's not a faith. And so people right now, out of fear, are desperately looking for something to hold on to. And we as believers say we have something that's worth holding on to. And I think people tend to have a tendency of gravitating towards that in such times.
Still ahead, what one megachurch pastor is doing to spread the gospel, how he hopes his unique technique draws people to Jesus.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5, Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Thanks for staying with NewsWatch. One Georgia megachurch pastor is going to his basement to spread the gospel. This radical party approach comes complete with a secular DJ and dancing. He calls it the next level of evangelism to reach the lost. CBN senior correspondent Eric Phillips has more.
Pastor Jamal Bryant says his regular services usually draw around 70,000 people online, but his first basement party saw 168,000 tuning in. He says challenging times call for challenging measures.
Would you point at somebody else randomly across the sanctuary and shout, "Bless you"? I'm speaking that over your respiratory system.
This is the usual setting people saw when tuning in for services from Senior Pastor Jamal Bryant of Atlanta's megachurch New Birth. Starting a couple of weeks ago, he opted for a different pulpit.
Whoa! I can't take it!
This one in a basement with a DJ playing hip-hop, R&B, and rap music, targeting the unchurched and unsaved through social media.
DJ, I need you to keep that right there. I need that for a solid 2 minutes. Don't mess with it. It's radical times. Literally, church has left the building. Jesus supped with sinners and publicans and tax collectors. And in this hour, the church is going to have to stop preaching to itself and really go out into the hedges and highways.
While many across the country are under stay-at-home orders, Bryant saw this as an opportune time to offer Christ to a captive audience. But first, he had to attract them.
It was the classic military strategy of the Trojan horse. I claim it came in something that they knew that would bring their guard down. And then once I got into the city, the soldiers of intercession began to unleash all that we needed to do. Lord, thank you for dying for a sinner like me. And for the rest of my life, I'll tell anybody, anywhere, at any time, that I'm saved, I'm saved, I'm saved. And our portal crashed from all the people trying to accept Jesus at the exact same time.
Still, Bryant says he has been criticized for his method.
I was saddened by the response of church people who were so vicious in their attack without understanding the motive. Jesus said, leave the 99 and go after the one. And so I'm following that biblical model that I'm willing to risk it all.
And that's going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.